Did you know Book is the only character that has never been voted out that is in BFDIA, BFB, and Teapot? Yes, he's competed in 3 different seasons and still has yet to be voted out of one of those seasons. However, does this make Book a good character, or is he just a good character for a voting system? Well, I'm going to break that down. And first, we see Book and BFDIA 1. I mean, technically in the recommended episode for BFDI, but I'm not really counting that because obviously her character wasn't meant to be built up in that. But BFDIA episode 1, we don't really get to see that much of Book. We just kind of see her interact with some of the other recommended characters like Lollipop, and that's the most significant stuff that Book does this episode. However, from episodes 2 to 4, Book actually has a pretty predominant role within the episodes. We try to see Book integrate herself into the Free Smart Alliance, which is going to be a major thing within her character after this point on in almost every single season. And then we see her interact with characters like Tennis Ball, Gelatin, and Fiery, and we see her kind of get bullied and kind of pushed around. And this is also a predominant thing that happens to Book's character later within the episode. And then she kind of gets forgotten about, and when she gets put into Golf Ball's factory, no one on our team even mentions her missing. Again, this is another predominant factor in her character. And these first couple BFDIA episodes, she is a very big character. However, from episode 5 to all the way to around BFDIA 11, she does basically nothing. I mean, she switches over to the Free Smart team, but gets overshadowed by literally every single character on the Free Smart team. She does have an interesting friendship with Ice Cube, but Ice Cube gets predominantly more screen time than Book does, and this friendship never really gets discovered within BFDIA, or honestly throughout most of BFDI in general. I mean, we do get to see it with the swing set scene, but again, that is really it. We don't really know why they're good friends or anything really about them. And then Ruby and Pencil are already big characters within the show already, so they are also taking up a lot of screen time. And then with Match also being probably the main figurehead of the Alliance before her elimination. And then they also bring Bubble back, who has a significantly bigger role whenever she's there over than Book. However, during the span of Book doing pretty much nothing and Free Smart being up for elimination multiple times, Book never really seems to be in danger in any elimination. And why is that? Why does Book always evade these eliminations when bigger and better characters honestly get eliminated over her? Characters like Yellowface or Golf Ball who have predominantly bigger fan bases and do a lot more within the show. Even Gelatin and Fiery, I mean, most of their dislikes I'm assuming came from them being finalists, but even them being finalists, they still get a lot more screen time in these BFDIA episodes than Book. Book is probably the least shown character within this stretch of episodes, and that's not even really a debate. I mean, in one episode, she literally gets killed in the bug poisoning challenge immediately, and she doesn't even show up for the whole episode. And then, when there was an episode without a competition, Book doesn't even get like 2 lines this episode. However, Book definitely gets a bigger role in the island episode, where the eliminated contestants create islands for the characters to do challenges for each island, and then they have to go to bed to win immunity. It is kind of a weird challenge, you just kind of have to watch it to understand. However, Book does get a somewhat bigger role than she normally does, but that is most likely due to because she is put up for elimination with just her and Ruby, because this episode was put up into a bunch of 2 teams, so it's 2 people on each team, and they were the last team to finish, so they were out for elimination. However, Ruby gets way more screen time than Book does this episode, which inevitably leads up to Ruby's elimination because of her whole sister thing, and people are kind of getting annoyed with Ruby switching colors all the time, and then also stealing Pin's song in the challenge. And Pin has predominantly been the main character of BFDIA. I mean, a lot of this story, especially during that time period, was Pin's storyline of her getting kind of tortured throughout the whole season. And what Ruby did to Pin ultimately led to her elimination. And we also saw this with Ice Cube's elimination. A lot of people thought if you were mean to Pin, you were going to be eliminated. However, Ruby was probably the most shown character in BFDIA to this extent. I mean, it seemed like everyone loved Ruby. She was constantly winning the prize and then also getting the least amount of dislikes. So how did she survive against Ruby pretty handily? Was it because of Book's good character, or was it because of Ruby's doings to Pin? Well, I think it's both, because I feel like what Ruby did to Pin was obviously an indicator to her elimination. However, Book does show some good empathy within this episode when she fights off for her team, and then she ultimately saves them and then recovers from it and putting the Free Smart Alliance first. Might I add that Pencil does not care what Book is doing this. While they think Book is completely dead, Pencil just wants to get up and finish the challenge. Also, something noteworthy, with Ice Cube's elimination, there were only 3 Free Smart members left, so we might have thought we were going to see more of Book. However, this was just simply not the case. Needle becomes a Free Smart Alliance member and also gets a lot of the screen time, taking away a lot of potential screen time from Book. So during her time since she joined the Free Smart team, Book is easily the least important character to this Free Smart alliance, and it's not relatively close. However, she is still a very loved character throughout this segment. And why is that? Well, I feel like she is the lesser evil of this whole Free Smart alliance, because as I talked about with Ruby, how she mistreated Pencil also mistreats a lot of people within her alliance, and especially outside of her alliance. Same thing like I said with Ice Cube when she took away Pin's face. I mean, again, a lot of these actions are definitely uncalled for, and it paints these Free Smarter Alliance members in a very negative light. However, Book is very empathetic towards these characters and is decently nice to them to a certain extent. And that is empathetic very broadly. How I mean empathetic is just not being a completely and total jerk and just pure torturing the other contestants that aren't on their team. If Book wasn't on a team, say like Whoa Bunch or Team No Name, would this reception be the same of Book's popularity? I honestly do not think so, but again, that is a different point for a different video. But I do think that Book benefits from being in the Free Smart Alliance and being the only somewhat redeemable or nice character within this alliance, and that's what keeps her through this segue of the show. However, when it comes down to the final 9, we start to see more of Book, well, inevitably because there are less characters. But does Book's character get better during the segue, or does she just get more screen time but relatively the same character? Well, you can't argue the fact that Book gets more screen time, especially because she is the last Free Smart member for these last 2 episodes, and she gets a lot of screen time doing the challenges because she is the only member on her team. However, as you see with the remaining final 6, we get to see new quirks or different arcs with them. Like how Fries has been on his own for so long, and it's interesting seeing him maneuver through the challenges all by himself. And then obviously Coiny and Pin have their whole thing that they've been going on for basically the whole season now. Tennis Ball with the whole Yo-Yo Light fiasco, and then Needle has had the Free Smart and Wobunch thing, and now she's really finding her true independence as a character. But what have we seen from Book? Pretty much nothing. Book hasn't really developed as a character at all. Book still feels like the same character from BFDIA 1. Really nothing has changed. Is she this sort of heroic character? You could say that just because, she is a nice and empathetic character like I said previously, and she just hasn't been winning that many challenges. So naturally you're going to want to root for a character that is kind of at the bottom of their situation. However, this doesn't make Book a good character. This doesn't make Book a well-written character. It doesn't make Book more deceptive to popularity. I guess you could say that, but she's no better than any of the remaining contestants, I guess, viewer-wise. Like, when I'm watching Book, nothing Book does is really that interesting. Book reminds me a lot of Bami's character. I feel like Bami and Book have just a lot of similarities. I just think Book is more, I guess, empathetic and Bami is more funny. But Bami got a lot more screen time than Book did in the earlier episodes than Book did, obviously. And Bami had more popularity. Like, Book has never won a prize except for her elimination where it was just her against Ruby, while Bami won the prize twice. I do believe Book is going to make it to the final 5 and probably all the way to the final 3, possibly even final 2, and I just don't really understand why Book is such a loved character in BFDIA. I feel like her character in Teapot and BFB is a lot more of a fleshed out and developed character. However, in BFDIA, Book just really hasn't done much of anything compared to the other contestants still left in the show, and it's a true shame that characters like Coiny, Tennis Ball, and Fries are more deceptive to being eliminated this episode, even though Book is probably the least interesting character throughout this whole show. But just because she is nice, she gets a path all the way to the end basically. It kind of feels a lot like Leafy in BFDI Season 1, but Leafy had more depth to her character, while Book doesn't really have any depth to her character. The only thing we know about Book in BFDIA is that she's an underdog, and that's really it. And even with the ongoing arcs with Leafy, I don't even know if Book is going to be that relevant to that because, again, Book didn't know Leafy. Book never really got to meet Leafy ever. And maybe Book can get something on the side, maybe a new arc in these last couple BFDIA episodes, but I kind of doubt it because they really give these arcs to the characters that they want to win, and it feels pretty obvious that the writers aren't really too fond of Book winning BFDIA just because she's basically done nothing the entire season. I mean, she doesn't win challenges, she doesn't have strong connections with any characters, and she has no storylines. but yet she is still a popular character. And leave in the comment section down below why you like Book and why she's one of your favorite characters of BFDIA, but personally, I just don't really see it, and I find her character pretty boring. But if you like this video, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and follow me for more BFDI content and commentary videos.